Welcome to Self-Centered Living, a podcast that serves as a vital platform for women of color across cultures and backgrounds to take charge of our narratives and where our voices are centered. I'm your host, Trish, and here we delve into our diverse experiences and rich humanity through a blend of personal stories and insightful discussions with a range of guests. Our aim is to foster meaningful connections and understanding among our listeners. This season, we're exploring the scripts that shape us, the ones we inherited, the ones that were imposed, and the ones that want to emerge when we can finally see them. A note on today's episode. This episode was recorded approximately 2 weeks before the U.S. entered a war with Iran. I am happy to be chatting with Ida Mantashi. Ida, welcome to Self-Centered Living.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited and honored to be here.
How would you introduce yourself to someone meeting you for the first time? Not exactly your resume, but who you are right now.
I'm an Iranian American. Grown up in Iran before the revolution, and when Iran was a very different world. It's a very different world than people would imagine today. I am an engineer by degree, and I work in the software development area. I'm a grandmother of two, soon become three, and definitely I'm a cat lover.
I did not know you were a grandmother.
Yes,
Congratulations.
expecting the third one now. Due March 20th.
Exciting. You grew up in Iran. What did the world that you grew up in teach you, whether spoken or unspoken, about who you were supposed to become?
As I mentioned, Iran was a very different world before revolution. My father was a successful man. We lived a very comfortable life, very protected life. We had help at home, chauffeurs, cooks, drivers, everything was available. As a child, that world was very stable and safe for me. When I was in fifth grade, the Islamic Revolution happened in Iran. That naturally shaped my life. A lot of changes happened. Before revolution, I was getting trained actually to swim the national level. After revolution, women couldn't compete in any form. It's hard to see overnight some part of your life that is very important to you, and it's part of your identity taken away from you. I was swimming since I was 4. My father was a champion. Everybody thought that I had his gene, and my father always had a coach for me. So I'm losing that identity. I'm not traveling anymore. It was a very emotional thing, but still up to today, I think a lot of my competition ability comes from that angle of my life. Although I was very young, I learned how to compete, and that's a very important part of my life. As I mentioned, when the revolution happened, I have to move. My father changed jobs, and we moved to the city. The whole environment was very different to me. It was a different school, different expectation, different social rules, different everything, right? They forced us to wear hijab at the time, which was very, very uncomfortable. My father didn't want me to wear, but eventually we got forced to wear that. It's a part of your identity that is changed, and you don't have a control over it, and you learn how to deal with it. Very soon after that, I was in the middle grade when Iran and Iraq went to war. It was 7 years of bloody war. At the end, we don't know what came out of it. It's interesting that I have a very close friend today in the United States. He's Iraqi. He's originally immigrated from Iraq. We often talk that, what was that about? We don't even understand, and we don't even know. We lost so many young people to that war, and at the end, nothing really meaningful came from it. That taught me that there's no stability in the country, and if I want to, grow, I need to move on and immigrant. I was very lucky that my father had a residency at the time of United States, and I was able to apply and come to the state for my college degree. I went to FAU to become an engineer and pursue my career. If you are someone coming from a country that is full of revolution and a war and a lot of changes and living in such a tight rules, having freedom in United States meant so much to me. So much that, I still, always flashback. My husband, he like, oh, we paying so much tax. I often tell him, well, that's the price of freedom and it's totally worth it. I really don't mind it. And they always tell me, you must be the only woman in the world. But all that restriction back has taught me a lot of resilience.
Going back so that listeners could understand how much of a change you had to navigate, before the Iranian Revolution, things were, I don't know if the best way to describe it, more relaxed,
It was
especially
very, yeah,
for,
we lived a
right,
very modern life.
right,
Yeah.
especially for women, where after the Iranian Revolution, a woman could not be a judge anymore. She had to wear the hijab. You had the morality police. What was the feeling then about who you were as a young girl? The segregation also of boys and girls in school is taking place. So even on the social side,
There's always social discussions and political views and studying that part of your life. Growing up, being in that environment, you don't feel it that much. When you get away from it, you see the tension that you've been raised with and grown up with a lot more than when you're living it. When you're
okay.
living that moment, you don't see it as horrible. Even the war, life were lost. You would hear the bomb going somewhere, and then you would go around to say, let's see, where is it this time? But now when I think about it, that's huge. That was life of people. It could be us. It could be us any moment, right? When you're living it, you have a different perspective for sure. But it's true that I never accepted it. I never accepted that I have to wear black hijab all the time, or with my family too. My father was very educated and he never wanted us to have that life. We would always think that's temporary and we would
Okay.
emigrate and we would get away from it.
When you did leave for the States, did you come directly to the States
I
from
came
Iran?
directly to Florida, yes.
Okay. So you were around 18.
No, actually more. I was in college when I came to this state. I was 24 when I came.
I know there was like a three-year period where university was shut down.
The university was shut down for everybody, not
Okay,
just
yes.
for women and men
Mhm.
during the revolution. I was very young then. By the time I was ready to go to the college, I attended college in Iran, yes.
Then you come over to the States, you attend Florida Atlantic University.
That's
Tell
correct.
me about that. You were the only woman in your graduating class.
There were only very few women in that career in the electrical engineering class overall. We were all immigrant. Remember, I had two very close friends. One was from India and one from Pakistan, and myself. The class of 1999, I was the only woman graduating, as you mentioned. The story behind it is that I'm pretty short. I'm 5'4", and all the gentlemen graduating with me were so tall. I was right in the middle of a very tall man. My mom and dad came to graduation. They couldn't find me. Like we were having such a hard time to even seeing you within that crowd. But yes, I was the only woman. I just pursued my talent and my passion. I was very proud of myself for achieving that. It didn't feel like very different, but not when I, look back. I'm like, wow, the only woman. It looked very different.
Was there something that your parents said to you that made you feel once you came over to America you could achieve?
My dad graduated himself from United States, so he always thought that I don't belong to that regime and that environment. He would always tell me that there's a much better life in the United States for you. He was always confident that I was always a good student, my grade was always good. He would always tell me that I'm 100% sure that you can do it and you'll succeed. Later on, after I graduated from engineering college, he really wanted me to go for the PhD. He always told me, I think it's great for a woman to achieve greater education and go through that level. I got so involved with the corporate work. And I was in the field that moves so fast. So for me, learning certification or learning the specific thing that I was doing was even more important than having a higher college degree. I can't tell you that I'm sorry about it. I think pursuing all that certification and learning the field was as important. Do I think about it? What would happen if I have a PhD? Yes, of course. I often think about it, what would happen if I pursue what my father really wanted me to do and get my PhD. I'm sure it would be, beautiful and great, but I wouldn't be where I am if I didn't do continuous education around my field with, all the certification, all the, yearly learning, all the things that I had to do for my job. There's always both sides to it.
Always both sides. To your point, you started out in electrical engineering. You and we worked together at Siemens. By then, you were already in software. Now you're with Mod Medicine. And where you are right now, we have AI affecting things. You're right. The speed of technology,
Right.
that industry, you will stay educated. In
Right.
technology, we're constantly learning and having to reinvent ourselves.
Yes, your degree give you directions. What I do today has nothing to do with electrical engineering, basically. I did start it with with hardware at Siemens and telecom. Eventually, as you mentioned correctly, we move away from hardware, become 100% software. We did, voice over IP at the time. And so I grow with that and went to the um, software world, and I grow from there. Sometimes it's also what life planned for you.
How much of that is rooted in what your mother told you about being Middle Eastern and an immigrant?
Yeah, I was still a student when I joined Siemens. I joined Siemens as an intern. At the time, Siemens were paying me $13 an hour. I was very proud. I was very proud of myself. And, because I was like working as an engineer at the time, I proudly told my mother that, I'm working for Siemens, which is a very known company uh,
Yes,
in
globally.
Europe and Middle East. Everybody knows Siemens. So I proudly told my mom I'm working for Siemens as an intern and I'm making $13 an hour. My mother looked at me surprised and she said, "That's very little." Then she said, "Just because you started small, that doesn't mean you have to stay small. You're worth a lot more than that." Even today, both of us laugh at it. She was trying to be not surprised and proud of me, but at the same time, like, that's it, you're making $13 out of that. My parents definitely were very proud of me under the circumstances of Iran, my immigration, and all that stuff. I definitely achieved their expectation, which I'm proud of. But yeah, it started very very slow.
You had told me that she also said to you, just because you're Middle Eastern and you're immigrant, that doesn't mean you can't achieve. That's actually good. It's something good.
Yes, that's exactly what she said. That she wanted me to be proud of my background. She said, because you're an Middle Eastern and you haven't grown up in United States, that doesn't mean you cannot achieve much higher level in life.
Which I would think would come into play when you are sitting in classrooms where you're one of maybe two women, or maybe you're the only one. What did that environment of mostly men require of you?
It's very important when you are minority in the room full of people that are not minorities. To me, it was important for me that I achieve higher level, that I be a better student than they were, that I study more than they did, that I have a better grade that they had. That would prove that I belong into that environment. In reality, uh, obviously talent is part of it and something you want it to be, it's part of it. The success that you imagine for yourself, it's a big part of it, but you have to work a little bit harder. Always, maybe not a little bit. You have to work a lot harder than other students. Later on in the work, it felt the same. To achieve the same goal, if they giving it to 10 people, if I'm the minority, if I'm the woman, and if I'm not grown up in United States, English is not my first language. I have to try harder. I have to achieve higher. And I have to be very good. Not just good, but very good at what I do. It felt the same way, at the school. It feels the same way after that. Still after so many years in the corporate world, feels the same. I have to be very, very good at what I do. That's how I feel.
Was there ever a time when you were sitting in the classroom where you felt, I belong here?
I remember the very first engineering class, my instructor came over and says that, this is the level that distinguish my students. Either you nail this test and it shows you belong here, and you should stay here and you should pursue higher education, or you're gonna suffer through this class so bad. If you're suffering so bad, you don't belong here. So you may want to consider changing because you don't want to suffer the rest of your life. I nailed it. It came to me very easily. Had a straight A at this class. I always tried hard. I always studied. But the fact that he mentioned that at the beginning and I was getting A showed that I belonged to the class, and I felt good about it.
It was validating.
Yes, as a validation. Of course, it's not always the case, right? There were classes that they were very hard for me. Early American history was one of them. I still have nightmares about it.
Why did you choose electrical engineering?
My father was a civil engineer. I have to say, I think it's run in my family. We have many engineers in the family. Many of my cousins are engineers. But my father, this is interesting that, he would always think that electrical engineering is more difficult. I think he wanted to do that, although he never directly told us. But I think he always wanted to do that, and he thought it's more difficult. And when you go to the college, there's also the saying that everybody says, well, the electrical engineers have the hardest one, or it's the most difficult one. So I like the challenge, I wanted to, but definitely engineering, blood comes from my father's side, and I pursue his footsteps, I guess.
How does it feel to pursue what he would have liked to pursue, the harder of the two?
For most part, I'm proud that I were able to achieve it and go to that level. But I mainly did it because I liked it. It made me proud because I thought I can achieve much better skills and profession. If it was not the case, I definitely wouldn't just do it to follow his footsteps. It just happened that in my case, the boats aligned. You hear all the time, don't listen to your parents, pursue what you really wanted to do. It's a little bit of both.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Self-Centered Living. Come back next week as we continue exploring what shapes us and what wants to emerge. Our music is by Ketsu. Information on our participants can be found in the show notes. You can find me at selfcenteredliving.com. Take care until then. Corporate. Tell me how that was for you. In American culture.
Yeah, I had no idea what does it feel and how is it like. All I knew is that, I'm working in the professional environment, and I have to do my best. I start coding automations. They put me on automation. I remember my manager at the time, he always thought I'm very smart and I do a pretty good job. I start with automation and I enjoyed it. It was very interesting. I think, overall, when you code, it's exciting. The world of AI is exciting, very exciting right now. When you see what you can achieve with it, when I could run thousands of scripts at night, and make sure everything is in order. When I would find, the issues and I would report it, that was exciting. I was introduced to a lot of American culture at the time, going out, for dinners and getting together, and the social part of it was also very interesting because remember, I never had that back home. And when I went to the college, I was so focused of, doing the best. But when I came to the Siemens, I was welcome, especially the Siemens is a German company, although we were in the United States and there was a lot of, US employee, but it still carried a lot of German cultures. It was very restricted. You have to, meet your deadlines, and I really truly think even up to today that Germany, they have one of the best engineers. And from the technical perspective, they're very, very restricted and very structured. So I feel I'm very fortunate that they trained me at Siemens as an intern to be that very structured, very, serious engineer and live that life. That shaped a lot of my career success later on.
Speaking of that, when I was thinking about season 2 and I thought about you and I reached out to you and you and I connected, I said, Ida, the whole time we were at Siemens, I was always so impressed with how kind you were. To give some context, yes, you were in the development team and it was mainly male. And I supported the executives of that team who could be very challenging, loud. So when I said kind, that's the space that I was coming from. I said you were very kind. I always noticed that about your leadership, and you were quick to correct me. Tell me about that. What was the significance of that
Yes,
correction?
I said I don't think it was my kindness that helped me grow in that environment. It was my hard work and really consistently deliver was what made me survive that environment. I think surviving is a better word, actually. Yes, Trisha, even before you, I think within the development team, I'm very proud to say I was the first woman in leadership. I was the first one who was promoted. I was promoted after 5 years when I worked at Siemens, and the team chose to promote me for the first time. On that environment, on the technical area, obviously we had other female leaders in HR or in other, but not in the
Not
technical.
too many. Not too many. You and I were one of few, especially
Yes,
looking like us.
even
Yeah.
that was very few. Yes, yes, yes. What I'm more proud and what I remember right now, of course, it's a rough environment to compete because it's a higher level position and so many people compete. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman or not, but you have to deliver really well and you have to deliver good. So it's not a very easy environment to grow. But all I remember and what I'm very personally proud of it is that after me, there were several other women promoted to that level. I think it opened up the path, proof that women can be successful and can be structured and they can deliver on time and well. Then two of my friends then after me, they were promoted. I'm very proud of that perspective. I don't remember a lot of, challenges. I think the human brain, or at least my brain, I don't fall back to the negativity that much.
Mhm.
Although I'm 100% sure there was plenty of them at the time. But I do remember the positive outcome out of that. Do remember being very proud at the time when I had my first promotion at Siemens.
I mean, certainly the personalities probably were what was challenging, navigating the personalities, but you were well respected. I think if you're a woman, and if you're a woman, black or brown, in these spaces and you are well regarded, it's not as difficult. What do you attribute to being so well regarded and respected?
Definitely hard work
Mhm.
and continuous education. I started saying that, I decided to put a lot of effort in continuous education. This field change, the technology change very often. For you to be respectful on what you're doing, you really need to learn that fast. It's not a very, slow market. There's things that you lose. For example, I mentioned that I could pursue my PhD, but you can't do both. Definitely, at least for me, it was not possible. I couldn't, go to the college, pursue my PhD, and at the same time take all those courses, all these technical courses, and making sure that I understand the code, making sure I understand how to, testing equipment would change. I was a field engineer. I would travel with the product to Europe and first introduce it to many other side of the world and transfer it to the field when they can actually support it. So it was kind of between development and service. It wasn't such a easy growing path, right? There's a lot of obstacles in between you have to cross over. I do remember my very first field position, Siemens sent me to deliver voice over IP in Texas. I was supposed to stay in Texas for 2 months. The very first project I had was a very large bank. We were doing the installation in the large bank. So I went to the IT room, which was actually on the roof. Normally, the IT rooms are underground. In
Cooler
this case, they
places.
were all
Yeah.
in the top, and all the equipment and everything were there. Even sent number of engineers, and there were technically there Like those guys are the one that they were dealing with like real wire. They were wiring the system, and we were getting away from the hardware to software. They were much more mature with many, many years of experience. Here I am, 30 years old, young woman walking into the room, and they looked at me and they said, "They send you?"
Oh,
I
wow.
just froze. They sent you to teach us what to do? What did they think? I recall immediately telling them, at the time we were on the high heel and all suits and everything too. I immediately said, please give me a chance. I'm good at what I do. And I'm 100% confident that I can teach you. Within 2-3 days, if something would happen, they would say, oh, we have to ask Ida. She's the only one who knows how to deal with it. A lot of people judge from the appearance, including ourselves. Lesson learned that there's a lot of judgment to what you see, that underlining maybe a lot of talent, a lot of skills. You're going to have to give it a try.
It goes back to your point of how you were able to lead. It is in learning, keeping up with things, your expertise, your subject matter expertise that it sounds like broke down some of those initial walls with the Texans. Let's talk about that more because you spoke up for yourself. I'm going back to Iran and culture. You and I talked about the importance of self-promotion
Right.
in corporate life. And then there's culturally how you were raised. Talk about how those two interface.
Yes, in my culture, you don't normally ask for anything. They normally see your talent, see your skills, see everything, and they give it to you. They acknowledge that and they give it to you. Versus here, as we know, you have to ask. You have to ask for what you want. You have to ask for promotion. You have to ask for your salary and many things. That was super difficult for me at the beginning. I would practice it and I would tell myself that at the beginning I knew I'm so underpaid that I have to go and talk to my manager, and I would say that I would ask for promotion or I would ask for this amount. I would go there to do that. I would even make appointment, but when it comes to the time, I couldn't. I would very embarrassed to even ask. This is something I still challenge with. Even many, many times I have asked for whatever I wanted. It is not a very easy thing, even today for me. I have to work on it. I have to challenge myself and I have to push myself and I have to convince myself that I need to. It's also a mindset that helped me at the time is that there's so many other people in the same level as I am. If I don't stand for my rights, I'm kind of putting down their rights. At the beginning of my career at Siemens, my friend that we were at the same level, she would say that if you don't fight for your salary and your level, I can't fight either because we are in the same level. If they pay you this amount of money and I ask so much more, they would say, no, Ida makes this much money and she works the same and she delivers the same. So why would I give you that much money? So I carry that mentality with me every time I'm very challenged. I think about other minorities, other women, other talented people that are in the same level. And if I don't ask and I don't get what I deserve, then they won't be able to get it either. So that's what helps me to pursue the next level.
Yes, there's definitely the pay disparity. For every woman who asks for 10, 20% more than what's offered, even if it's a good offer, it's helping us make that gap smaller. What I learned from talking to you is the perception might be we don't ask because we're timid, we're afraid, or because we're a woman, we should be happy with how much we're making, and this is why we don't go and ask. That's some of it. But I'm also looking at the culture that you came out of acknowledgement. In America, we are very much, especially in the corporate space, about individual achievement and the self-made status. If I go to Iranian culture, it's family reputation, education, and social grace. It's counter to America that's so competitive. You're raised to promote yourself, to have your brand. Culturally, it seems like where we look for public recognition and formal titles, it's more about private influence, matriarchal leadership, silent power. You make these assumptions, but reflecting back after we talk, a lot of it is rooted in pride. I should be acknowledged for the education that I have, the hard
Right.
work that I'm doing, that you see me, the results that I'm giving you. Why am I having to ask for it? That's coming from a different place than I think we're accustomed to think of why we hesitate to ask for more money. So you're navigating corporate. You are now associate vice president,
Associated. Yeah.
compliance.
Yes, that's why I said you never know what you're studying. You go into the totally different area. So I joined modernizing medicine after 15 years with Siemens when Siemens sold us, and it was very obvious that you can't grow. I always wanted to be in the healthcare environment. Healthcare was my passion. In fact, when I first joined Siemens, I always thought that I eventually would switch to the healthcare area, but it was an opportunity for me to change, and I joined modernizing medicine. I was very lucky that it was in the same area. It was no working remotely or anything, so at the time it was closed and I wanted to be in healthcare. I joined as a product manager. They asked me to work in compliance. I was experienced. I did a lot at the gateway with the IT area. I did a lot of security and privacy and other compliance like ISO, stuff like that. So I had that in my resume, and obviously they correctly acknowledged that. When I think about it from my resume, they knew correctly put me in that area. And we can't build a product if you really don't know the regulations around it. At the beginning, it was very hard. Even my family always remember those times as a very difficult time in my life because I totally switched the field. And now I was hired as a skilled person, right? I really should know what I'm building. So I've been studying day in, day out the regulation. What are the quality measurements? Where was at the time PQRS? What is ECQM? What is all those definition? People would just throw at me, and I would write it down, and I would go study. How do you make these scripts? How do you do this language? And how do you map the ICD-10 to SNOMED or stuff like that? So took me about 2 months to be completely comfortable with the areas that ModMed was expecting me to really know well. After that, I learned the compliance regulation in healthcare change very rapidly. Every year we have new regulations that we have to read and understand, and there's thousands of pages that gets released from government. I would sit and read and try to understand what does it mean to our product and how to convert it. So I would grow into the compliance eventually so much. At the time, because modernizing medicine was very small when I joined. I am employee number 250 and there's over 3,000 employees today. We didn't have that separate department for compliance. Was just trying to wear a hat of both worlds, trying to understand, getting involved with all the meetings or all the activities or the committees outside my company to understand what's going on and to be prepared for the regulations. That make me who I am today. Actually, I grow into the compliance so much. We eventually put a compliance team together. My previous managers recognized that I'll be a very good candidate for the position I am at right now. She offered that position to me and I moved. That's why I'm saying that you never know where you grow and how you get to where you are today. It has nothing to do with your education. It has a lot to do with your background and the experience you go through life.
You said it pushed you in ways that you would not have normally pushed yourself. What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah, I learned that for me, growth comes from uncomfortable situations. I can't grow if I'm always comfortable. Even in my personal life, I think, Trish, when things become so rough, right? So many things happen at the same time. Now I know that a big door is going to open. That's definitely with career. If you don't put yourself into the pressure and uncomfortable situation that you have to learn, you have to teach yourself, you have to learn something, you're not going to grow. Some of the fields are not like that, but technology changed so fast. If you don't grow, you go backward. You don't stay in the same place, you go backward. I've seen so many of the talented people going backward in their career. That's a lesson learned. I do need to push myself, and I need to be in the uncomfortable places, and I need to try to grow.
There's pushing yourself so that you grow, and there's also pushing yourself to depletion. Is there something that you had to learn how to release to sustain yourself?
Many things, many things. You and I started talking about morning routine and evening routines. That definitely something helped me through my day a lot. I'm also a big fan of working out. Working out is a great way of releasing a lot of pressure, but also meditating and spirituality practices, no matter where you are. Um, I don't drink at all. I know alcohol is is a release for many other people, but I have been raised, with the society that drinking is not welcome. When I came here, I never adopted it. I didn't enjoy it, and so working out definitely and having a routine, commit to your routine is a big deal. For me, when I get my morning routine done, I'm already in the good mood, and I know I can get a lot done. I also take regular bath every night. I take a bath, and
Yes, rinse
that's
off the
very helpful.
day. It's so important to rinse off the day.
Yes.
We're coming into the wind down. I felt special being able to sit down and talk with you. I'm thinking about Iran today. December of last year, a lot of the domestic uprising really came to an head. You're someone who fled Iran. You were there when it was one way and quickly changed. Here we are now watching, and I know you watch regularly and you're staying abreast of what is happening in Iran. Tell me about that. It feels significant to be talking to a woman from Iran who's been able to come to the US and build success for herself, to now be looking back at the country and seeing where women are.
I have a very mixed feeling, Trish. As an Iranian American, almost every morning when I see the news, I cry. I found myself crying for the people I don't even know. I don't know any of those pictures. I feel deep saddened for the beautiful lives lost, beautiful people, very young generation that being killed simply fighting for the dignity and basic human rights. At the same time, I'm proud of the brave Iranian man and woman who stand empty-handed in front of the army of people and still raise their voices. I'm sincerely saying that I've been in the United States for over 36 years, and this is the first time in my life that I'm very proud of my nation and my roots, because up to now, every time I'll talk about being Iranian, I would associate myself with the regime that I didn't believe in it so much. Now I see thousands of people behind the voice of the people, and the people are standing for the basic human rights. It makes me very proud. I'm very proud, and I'm trying to do my best to be their voice as much as I can. I'm very thankful that you asked that question, Trish.
When I talk to you, you're always positive. It's not to say that there aren't things that are unsettling and disturbing going on. So I'm feeling very privileged to sit down and have this conversation with you.
Thank you for reaching out, Trish. I am very honored talking to you and wishing you the best of luck for this wonderful, beautiful podcast that you have started. And I'm privileged of being part of it.
Thank you. Looking back on your life, what's something you would have told your younger self?
What would I say to my younger self? I wouldn't change. Continuous education for sure. I would definitely pursue for being better. I wish I knew much sooner in my career. They're not going to give me everything. They're not going to hand it over to me. I have to ask. I have to train myself to ask for what I want. People don't know what's happening in your brain, right? So you're gonna have to step forward and ask for what you want and what you think you deserve. You need to ask.
And this ties into my next question. You, again, 5'4", graduation day, only woman in your class. Your parents are trying to see you in a sea of all men. But that has been your career, navigating spaces which are male dominated, to then wanting to accelerate and grow. What from your experience would you impart on her?
Just because you are a minority doesn't mean you have to settle with less. Go for your dream. Go for what you want to achieve, do your best, be your best. And United States is a land of opportunity. This is what I'm very thankful of. If you work hard and if you do your best, you will succeed. That's the beauty of living in United States.
And you still believe that?
I still believe that, 100%.
Ida Manatashi, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Trish.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of Self-Centered Living. Come back next week as we continue exploring what shapes us and what wants to emerge. Our music is by Ketsu. Information on our participants can be found in the show notes. You can find me at selfcenteredliving.com. Take care until then.